Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey everybody, Ray Flowers here, fantasyguru.com. Wondering why we're having some technical difficulties. Twitter X not playing ball this morning. Doesn't look like the show is posted. Oh, there it is. Now it's up. Hey, here we go, everybody. Ray Flowers here again. It's tough when you're trying to do multiple things here. I'm the producer. I'm the host. It's not the easiest thing in the world, as they say, to get both of these suckers going at one time. Hopefully, the majority of the time I'm doing okay. I don't know. What do you think? I'm still efforting here because for some reason, Twitter, the tech here works. You know what's so funny about this? I was just thinking about it this morning. To be honest, I was thinking about the fact that how all of this works so amazingly well that we have like all these different sources that are feeding in this information into one spot, and we're setting things up here and it's going out over here and it's being shown over here and all these things are working. And there it is. Well, anyway, we're live. You know that. You're watching along. You can hear me. You can see me, all that kind of stuff. I wish that I'd be more able to tweet it out so others can know that we're live instead of just people that follow the site. But hey, we're rocking and rolling. I see people in the mix right now. Again, I'm Ray Flowers, fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining me here. Really appreciate it. Tell a friend, as we say all the time. Show the folks who care that we're ready to rock and roll, that we're talking baseball still. I know there's lots of football talk out there that a lot of people want to say to themselves, well, it's all football that matters. Now, there's more than football that matters. And we're doing it right here at Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday. I'm now locked back in. I apologize for that brief delay trying to get the technology rocking and rolling. What are we talking about today? Well, let's take a look. We got the Josh Hader rules, and I saw an article about this a while back, maybe 10 days ago, something like that, and I wanted to bring it up. ESPN did a full, one of their 10,000 word articles about it, so I wanted to talk about it and get your thoughts. The Hader rules, what were they? What do they mean? What are the potential long-term impacts for baseball? We'll talk about it. On the performance side of things, we had some pitchers that pitched like butt last night, my favorite term. Reid, Detmers, Framber, Valdez, Pablo, Lopez. We had a pitcher say, nah, bro, I'm tired, and tell his manager to take him out of the game. How do we feel about that? Sonny Gray was that guy. Ryan Weathers, Marcus Stroman had some success on the hill. We'll talk a little bit about them. On the offensive side of things, Rafael Devers, Luis Rengifo, Kerry, Carpenter, Christian Yelich, and Luke Raley. Those guys getting it done. On the injury front, we've got about 10 zillion, only slightly exaggerating, 10 zillion injured pitchers that we have to talk about. Gerrit Cole, Kodai Senga, Garrett Whitlock. Is Reese Olson, who took that ball off his leg, is he going to have to deal with an issue of missing a start or not? We'll talk about it. Joe Ross, who I picked up, we talked about him yesterday here on the show in the Fab section of the show. If you missed it, go back and watch episode 145. We talk about Fab every Monday here on the show. Joe Ross was the guy I picked up for the two-step start this week. Last night, he pitched one inning and left the game with his back, and now we're left to wonder if he's going to the injured list. So that went horribly wrong for me. Hopefully it didn't for you. Some updates on the offensive side of things with Lane Thomas, Xander Bogaerts, Joey Ortiz, another guy that was a hot pickup this week around the land, and Dansby Swanson, if I can't speak, Dansby Swanson of the White Sox. Remember, you can still sign up over at fantasyguru.com. Get the VIP membership. It's only got a multiple days. I'm hearing now it's the end of the week. So this is, again, it's a moving target. I heard Jeff Mans talk about on his Elite Sports Show, which is Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on SiriusXM, Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff said yesterday it's the end of this week. So we're going with the end of this week. It's even less time than we thought here. So less than 7 days for you to get in at half price. And you're going to get in. You want to get in, right? You want to get everything that everyone does at the site and all that goodness. So check it out. VIP Platinum membership gets you access to every single thing we do, every tool, every article, every live stream, every Discord room, everything, every ranking set, every sport. Use the promo code 50special, 50 special over at fantasyguru.com right now. And you can always use the promo code FSD20 on any of the products over at fantasyguru.com. Yeah, I'm checking the tech out here today. It just didn't work. Interesting. I'll have to look into that after the show. Okay, let's talk about what we're going to talk about, and that is these performances. And let's start out here. Actually, let's start out here with the hater rules. This is fascinating to me, and I wanted to have a discussion. Again, you can leave me a comment here on Facebook or on YouTube. You can hit me up over in Discord at fantasyguru.com, depending upon when and how you're consuming the product here, whether you're listening live on YouTube at youtube.com/@elite+network, whether you're on Facebook Live right now, and we determined what that was yesterday, facebook.com/fantasyguruhq, whether you're listening on your podcast network, Fantasy Sports Daily can be found there, or at the website fantasyguru.com on the Elite Plus tab. Let me know your thoughts on this, because this is a really big deal. You can see it on the screen there, and we'll talk about it. Josh Hader basically went to the arbitration process, which I don't know how the Brewers run this, but Corbin Burns was pissed off at the arbitration process too at the Brewers. So that should be something that factors in. A lot of teams that the Blue Jays have done this for years too. There is a process that the teams follow, and that's just the way it is. There are no favorites. There's no, there's no people outside the norm of what we do. This is what we do, and this is how it's going to work. And the arbitration process is clearly set up to favor the team. And then what teams will often tell the players is, look, we got control of you for 6 years. We know you're going to leave if you don't like things here, or if you think you can make more money and all that. Have at it in 6 years. We'll use you for the first 6 years of your career. We'll potentially get the best 6 years of your career. And then you can go sign for gazillions of dollars with somebody else, and we'll just replace you with someone younger and cheaper. So what happened is Hader got to the arbitration process, and he and his agent basically were told that we're not going to pay you, Josh Hader, even though you're arguably one of the 5 best relievers in baseball. We're not going to pay you high-level dollars because you're not working the 9th inning. Now, it's not Hader's fault he wasn't working the 9th inning. The Brewers were choosing to deploy him in a way that, multi-inning guy, when the game was on the line, when the opponent had their best, heart of the order up, they would roll out Josh Hader. And Josh Hader was out there dominating. In his first season, he had no saves. In his second season, he had 12 saves. And he's like, look, I should be paid more. He made 55 appearances in his second season and threw 81 innings. That's a lot of innings for 55 appearances in the modern day game, right? So saved 12 games, had 21 holds. Didn't feel like he was getting paid like he should. And again, basically felt that the whole arbitration process revolved around you're not getting saves. So Hader, who wanted to sign, I guess, a long-term contract, couldn't get the Brewers to sign a long-term contract. They were comfortable going year to year because, again, it's much easier for them to go year to year. If you blow your arm out, they pay out the rest of the contract this year. They don't have to worry about 4 more years and recovery and all that. So I get it from the Brewers and the financial aspect of things. But what Hader and his agent did is pretty unique, I think, because I haven't heard others go through this. If you have, let me know. Josh Hader and his agent sat down and they basically said, look, we're not getting paid because we're not getting saves. Brewers, he's your best pitcher. We know, Brewers, he's your best pitcher. If you're not going to give him a long-term contract and he's not going to get paid through the arbitration process fairly for his value to the team, here are the rules. So the agent and Hader created rules that they went to the team and said, this is how you're going to use Hader. This is the player dictating to the team how he's going to be used. Now, you know me well enough, I think, if you've followed me for a long time. Maybe you don't. I'll tell you right now. If I'm the boss and I say, kid, I need you Monday through Friday. And the kid comes back to me and says, you know what? I just can't do Mondays and Tuesdays. Sorry. I'll be available Wednesday to Sunday. Kid, I need you Monday and Tuesday. Sorry, boss. Can't do it. Can only work Wednesday through Sunday. The kid is out. I need you as the boss to work these days. You're not available. I'm not hiring you, or I'm firing you, or I'm demoting you. Why didn't the Brewers demote Josh Hader? Why didn't they suspend Josh Hader? Can you imagine, you listener, whether you're viewing me or listening, can you imagine going to your boss and saying, you know what? I just don't feel like working afternoons anymore. I'll bust my ass, but I'm going to come in at 6 a.m. when there's no one in the office. I'm going to come in at 6 a.m. and work till 3 and I'm out. Sorry, I'm not working 9 to 5. What would your boss say? What would your boss say if you went to your boss and say, you know what? I just don't think I should be working Thursdays anymore. I'm just not going to work Thursdays. I'll work Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And, if you need me on Saturday a little bit, sure, but I'm not working Thursdays. What would your boss say? You'd be fired. Why didn't the Brewers suspend Hader? They didn't do it. Here are the rules that Hader had, and they're in bold there on the screen. The agent and Hader went to the Brewers and said, number one, he would not pitch more than 2 days in a row. Number two, he would not pitch more than 3 outs. And number three, he would only pitch in a safe situation when the score was tied. So we now have the inmates running the asylum. The player is telling the team there are 3 scenarios in which I will pitch for you. If it's not one of those 3 scenarios, I'm not pitching for you. Wow. How did they let this happen? How did they accept this? And Hader went out and was, one of the best relievers in baseball, right? Signed this big long-term contract finally with the Astros, the 5-year, $95 million deal. You can see the quote here from Hader at the bottom. Quote, if they don't see what I do is valuable, Hader said, and I can't get the value I'm worth, then why would I put myself in jeopardy to get hurt and not have a job? If I get injured, a team isn't going to sign me to a long-term deal. Unquote. Totally get Hader's point of view. I totally get it. If you're on a year-to-year contract, if you're through the arbitration process, you don't have that security like he does now where you got a 5-year contract. Now he's got a 5-year contract from the Astros, and guess what? He'll throw 2 innings if they need him to. He'll pitch multiple days in a row if they need him to, because in his mind, he got paid justifiably for what he's done, what he can do, and he's willing to take risks now for his team because his team showed faith in him. I get that point. But back to my point, what would your boss say to you if you said, I'm only doing A, B, and C, not doing D, E, F, G, H. I'm not doing any of that anymore. I'm only doing A, B, and C. You'd be fired. Can you imagine I went to Jeff Mann and said, you know what, Jeff? I just don't like writing DFS articles anymore. I'm just not going to do it. Not do it. What do you think Jeff would say? Think I'd be working here next week? Maybe. Jeff's a good guy. But you know my point. So I don't know, man. What are your thoughts? I'm very interested in this and what people would or wouldn't do, accept or whatever, because this is wild to me that a player dictated the only ways he could be utilized, and it was 3 ways. And if it was not in that, he was not out on the field. I wonder what his teammates thought too. And that's the balancing act too. I'm not in a major league clubhouse and all that kind of stuff. Everyone wants everyone to get paid. I get that, right? I understand that. Teammates want you to succeed. Totally get that. Teammates also want to win games. And if I got a dude out there in the bullpen that I know can help me win on a Thursday, but he's just not going to pitch Thursday because he doesn't feel like it, doesn't fit his rules. Do I like that guy as a teammate? Do I respect that guy as a teammate? I understand what he's trying to do. I get it. Do I respect him? Want to have a beer with him? Do I want to go to battle with him on my squad? How many people with the Brewers really shed a tear when Hader when left? I don't know. So, thoughts over at fantasyguru.com and Discord or here. I see Josh G say, I make my own schedule so I say that to my boss. Well, yeah, if you make your own schedule, Josh, or John, excuse me. I get it, but you know, that's good. You're not getting paid millions of dollars by someone else. You're generating millions of dollars yourself. So you can tell yourself when you want to work. But I just find this whole thing completely fascinating and would love to hear more information about your thoughts on the matter. Okay. Reid Detmers last night was terrible. And I've gotten a question. In fact, John asked a question in Discord this morning about Reid Detmers. Reid Detmers has really hit the skids. Started out very well. The last 4 times out, I mean, what's his ERA? The last 4 times out, he's allowed 24 runs in 19 innings. It's been awful. Just awful. Doesn't take away his skill. Doesn't take away the bits there that I love. But the bottom line is he's not performing. Now, he's got a 25% strikeout rate, which is still very solid. His walk rate is still below the league average. He still has a better than 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He's been unfortunate. His 336 batting average of balls in play is about 30 points higher than it should be. So he's been a little unfortunate there. If you look at the batted ball data, the launch angle is the same as it's been the last 3 years. The barrel rate's basically the same as the last 3 years. The hard hit rate's the same as the last 3 years. The exit velocity is the same as the last 3 years. Okay. Remember, his ERA right now is 5.8. His expected ERA given all the pieces is 3.6. His Sierra is 3.7. His xFIP is 3.8. The underlying skills are still solid. The underlying skills are still usable. I'm still a fan. I'm holding Detmers if I can. If Detmers has been released, I will add Detmers to my team. That does not mean I need to start him next time out. That's not what I'm saying. This is a long-term play, as I said in Discord this morning. Long-term play. But we have to realize that we can't add Detmers, see him give up 8 runs his next 2 starts, and then drop him. Like, that's, if you're picking up Detmers, you're looking at him as a second half option. Again, the advanced metrics all are the same as they have been or slightly better. And when I went through the ERA numbers, the non-ERA numbers, that all suggest that he's pitching much better, 2 full runs better than his actual ERA is. So I'm still a fan. I'd still add him if available, but I would not feel a rush to start him. Framber Valdez, and we were talking about him last night on Elite Sports. The Elite Sports Game Time show is Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 Eastern. Justin Fensterman and myself were talking about this last night live as it's occurring. Framber Valdez got destroyed last night, gave up 8 runs in 5 innings against the Angels, including 3 home runs. Through 4 innings, he'd allowed 1 run, and he looked fine. And he looked like he was in line for a win. It was like 6-1, I think, if I remember right. And he was heading into the 5th inning with a 6-1 lead. Everything looked fine. And then the 5th inning happened, and he got obliterated. And, I said this during the broadcast last night. The issue for Framber Valdez getting pounded last night is that he's Framber Valdez. He is a guy who has proven that he can consistently go 7 innings, that he can consistently throw quality starts, that even when he doesn't have his best stuff, can consistently keep the Astros in a game and give them an opportunity. If this was Keaton Wynn, he would have gotten pulled. This is Wade Miley, would have gotten pulled. But he's Framber Valdez, so he left him in there. Now, it's still surprising they left him in there to give up not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs. He only allowed 2 home runs coming into last night, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Let me look that up real quick. I think that's what I saw last night. He obviously is one of the best ground ball arms in all of baseball. He had allowed only 2 home runs coming into last night. So even with that change last night, it's still above his league average. 1.1 for his career. 1.1 in the season, 0.8 home runs per 9 for his career. So that effort last night did shoot him past his career average. But the point being that, there was some regression that was coming there. It just all happened in 1 inning. I don't think that we should be panicking with Framber Valdez. I think it was a brutal effort. It was terrible for DFS. I think it was terrible for seasonal. I think the Astros should have pulled him before he gave up the 3rd home run. At that point, you have to admit defeat. Giving up 7 runs in an inning. I mean, come on. So much like Reid Detmers, with Framber Valdez, he's healthy. There was the arm issue. Now he's healthy. That's what matters. So I think that you have to continue to keep the faith. I don't think there's a reason to not have faith in him. And I think that Framber Valdez, if his current user / owner is disappointed in him, there we go. By the way, Twitter just figured out that we were on air today. So yay, there we go. Okay. If Framber Valdez has been released, if Framber Valdez is available on the waiver wire because the current owner says this ain't working, I don't believe in this guy anymore, pounce. Still a fan of Framber Valdez. I'm still a fan of Pablo Lopez, but Pablo Lopez gave up 7 runs in 5 innings last night to the Nationals. He got home runs to Jesse Winker and Luis Garcia. Then he had names like Jacob Young and Garcia again, and Joey Meneses beat him down. He struck out 5 and walked 1 batter. Pablo Lopez was massive last season, and this season he's been a huge disappointment for fantasy and in the real world. He is 4-4. 4 victories is not a terrible mark at this point, but 4-4. ERA, though, is up to 4.7. Now, the ERA of 4.7 is also accompanied by a 1.2 whip, which is basically dead on his last 3 years, so we haven't lost anything there. His 28% strikeout rate is just off. Last year was 29%, but still above his career mark, so not a huge change there. His walk rate of 4% is actually a career best. You get my drift here? Batting average of balls in plays right on his career mark. His left on base percentage is way down. That number will naturally regress. It's down by like 10%. That number will regress over time. One change is that his fly ball rate is up and his ground ball rate is down. And that is something to keep an eye on with him. And I know that he's constantly tinkering with his pitch mix. He's been doing that for a couple of years now. Really seemed like he locked things in last year. If you look at this year's pitch mix compared to last year, the usage pattern, everything's within like 2% of where it was last year. So he hasn't drastically altered his pitch mix. Just like the first 2 guys, he is somebody, Lopez, that you should still be in on. And I think it's obvious that, 1-1 whip, come on, right? The home run rate right now per 9 innings is 1.5. It's the last 4 years, it's been under 1.15. So come on, that number is going to come down to. But a 7-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I talk to you all the time, right? 7-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio is Hall of Fame. He will have success if he keeps the number there. He will not continue to be allowing this many home runs. He's certainly on the buy list as Pablo Lopez. We talked about Josh Hader and his rules here at the start of the show. Let's talk about another scenario that occurred last night. Let me ask you the following. What do you think about the idea of a player telling his manager, I'm out, tap him out? We've had a lot of back and forth about this because back in the day, when I was a kid, if you went to your manager and said, I need to come out of the game, you were a soft B word that ends with an H. Nowadays, it's kind of understood and accepted that, okay, if your 5 innings are done or 6 innings are done, you can tell your manager, I'm spent, and take you out. This can be seen both ways. One, you could say, I want my guy, whoever my guy is, to be a bulldog out there and to have me have to drag him out of the game. I want him to be Max Scherzer or might you see him famously telling his manager, go to hell, I'm not coming out of the game, right? You really want that in your guy. On the flip side, if your guy can tell, let's be honest, they can tell most of the time, that I'm spent, like I'm throwing ducks up there now, get me out of this game. Admitting to your manager it's time to come out of the game is good for the team, right? Well, last night, there was a little bit of concern because Sonny Gray called his oil Marmol out and basically called his manager out, and then he took him out of the game. So there was some thought that he might have been injured. He's not injured. After the game, he came out and he said, look, I was spent. I trust the bullpen, and to win this game, we had a better shot with the bullpen than with me. He gave up 1 run, struck out 6 batters in 5 2/3 innings. It's not the second inning or anything. I got the victory, so it worked out. They won 6-3 over the Orioles in the end. But after giving up that home run to, Gunnar Henderson, he was like, I'm tapping out. Do you appreciate that? Do you like that? Do you want your guy saying, I can't go anymore? Because I mean, and again, it's a fine line. It's not like Sonny Gray was getting tattooed like Framber, Valdez, or Reid Detmers. It was basically one swing of the bat that did anything against him. The rest of the time, he didn't shut up for 5 2/3 innings other than the one hit. So I don't know. Is that scenario that appeals to you? Is it a scenario that doesn't appeal to you? What are your thoughts? Because again, Sonny Gray is also somebody who I think routinely throws 5 2/3, 6 innings. He's not someone who's going 7, 8 innings. Not that anyone does anymore. And I think really the issue with Sonny Gray is obviously needing to keep him healthy because he's not been a workload monster by any means. And if that means coming out an out or two before I'd like, I guess we're okay with it, right? Is that kind of where we're end up on this? Just a thought. Because again, it's strange to see a guy tapping out of a game, a veteran like that. Ryan Weathers, who I've added in the Dynasty League, the Dynasty League I'm in, we have 50 roster spots. The Ryan Weathers that you and I have talked about previously, the Ryan Weathers that I'm like, I'm just not really in. I don't really know how this is going to go. Continues to make starts for the Marlins because they continue to have health issues on the hill. He gave up 2 runs, only 1 earned yesterday in his outing against the Brewers, but struck out 8 guys. He had a 34% CSW, which is, that's that. We talked about when he was promoted to the rotation about, how long is he going to hold Max Meyer off? And is this rotation going to get healthy? And the fact is, Meyer struggled down at AAA. There'll be an update on rookies today over at fantasyguru.com in my Rays Ramblings piece. So check that out. Kind of running through all the top rookies this year and kind of an update on how they're doing. Ryan Weathers has been needed, and he's been quite effective. He's allowed 3 runs or fewer in 9 of his 10 starts. That's really good. He's given the Marlins a chance. He's got a 3.5 ERA and a 1.1 WHIP. He's got about a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. It's a little below that. Not ideal. Way less than a strikeout an inning. 46 strikeouts in 56 innings. Less than ideal. I'm still concerned where he ends up this season, but I will tip the cap to him to this point. Say I was wrong about him to this point. If you have rostered and used him, for the most part, you've gotten solid work for him. I still have all the same questions I had a month and a half ago. But to date, he has been one of those pitchers that if you made the move, you ignored me, you had success. So kudos to you. One of my guys, who's always been one of my guys, who I've steadfastly stood behind, who we sat here and talked about yesterday in the FAB discussion, and I said, I wish I had a roster spot for Marcus Stroman. I just didn't in the league where he was available. Went out and allowed 1 run last night in his 7 1/3 innings, had 6 strikeouts against the Mariners. Mariners can be pitched to. That offense has been a little wonky. He was able to win a game last night, if not for the mistakes his bullpen made, Marcus Stroman, so he didn't get the victory. He gave up a solo home run to Dominic Canzone, of all people. But he's dropped his ERA with the effort down to 3.05. It's only his fourth quality start in 10 tries. Now, that's low for Stroman. And he's often been we'll just go Marcus Stroman, right? He's going to give you 6 innings and give up 2 or 3 runs every time out. Because he usually keeps the pitch count in the 90 zone, right? It's not usually exorbitant. He gets a bunch of ground balls, stays in the game, doesn't give up the big fly. He's allowed 1 earned run in his last 2 starts, both quality starts. 3 of his last 4 starts, he's allowed 1, 0, and 1 run. So he's starting to pitch in a pretty nice groove. The home run has been there a little bit more than anticipated with him. And the walks continue to be there. He only walked 1 guy last night, which is a great sign for him, because if he's able to rein in the walks, over 4 walks per 9 innings right now. If he's able to rein that in, he will have continued success. Just like Sonny Gray, stay healthy. That's probably the key with Marcus Stroman. Let's talk about some offensive players now before we get into the injured guys. Rafael Devers became the first Red Sox ever, not Jimmy Fox, not Ted Williams, not Manny Ramirez, not David Ortiz, not Mo Vaughn. First Red Sox ever to have a home run in 6 straight games. In case you missed it. You probably didn't miss it. It's everywhere. The Major League record is 8 games in a row with a home run. He has done it now 6 games in a row. Since the start of May, he's got 7 home runs in 18 games. So if we back it up a little bit further, he's been really good this year. He's had some issues with his knee and some issues with his shoulder, and he hasn't driven in a ton of runs because they haven't done a great job as a team getting on base for him and all that. But Rafael Devers, even though there was that probably 10 days where we were a little nervous early in the season, he's back to being Rafael Devers. Like, he's just really good. And he's going to play his 140-plus games. And he's going to hit his 30 home runs and drive his runs in. And he's on an incredible hot streak right now. We've been utilizing him in the cash game breakdown repeatedly over at fantasyguru.com. And again, he extended his streak to 6 games in a row with a home run. Luis Rengifo returned to the lineup. And, we talked about this on Elite Sports last night. Remember that Elite Sports show? Elite Sports Game Time is 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday. We talked about Rengifo last night because Ron Washington has done some weird things. Okay. And we've talked about Rengifo since the preseason. You all know it. We've discussed it. I said, he's my guy. Go target this guy. He qualifies at 4 positions. I like his offensive game. I think there's a chance he could bat leadoff. We'll see how it shakes out, but that's a possibility. And then we've seen some injuries in the mix, which have gotten in the way too. But we see a slew of games batting 7th, a slew of games batting 8th. Some games where he's hit 9th, some games where he's hit leadoff, some games where he's hit 5th. He's been all over the lineup. Now, the last 5 games, he's hit 2nd or 1st every game, which is how he should be utilized, given the way this roster has come together, given the injuries and performance they're dealing with. So he's back in action. He's hitting .312. He's got a .364 on base percentage and a .450 slugging percentage. None of that is really what we should expect from him, but it's all great work. The biggest number that stands out, besides the 4 for the positional qualifications, is the 12. It's the number of stolen bases this guy has. I thought he could steal 15 bases this year. He might steal 15 bases in the first half. This has been great, especially with that positional flexibility. Now, he jammed his hand last night on one of the steals. So we'll have to wait and see. He stayed in the game, but there's a possibility he'll be out of the lineup. And this is one of those things, too. Like, is he just going to have one of these years where he's really good, but every 10 days he's out of the lineup with some bump or bruise? I don't know. Starting to get that feeling. It's early, but starting to get that feeling with him a little bit. But all I can say is that he's just been extremely productive. And as we've discussed on this show, he is over his head. The batted ball data is strongly suggestive of a serious regression here. Even if he seriously regresses, he could still hit 270 this year because of this hot start. And if he hits 270 this year, we're going to be totally happy with him. If he hits 270 with 10 home runs and 28 steals with 4 position qualification, and if he continues to hit near the top of the order, he's going to score runs. Especially if the Angels can get their offense going, especially if they can ever get Anthony Rendon back, if they can get Mike Trout back. He's got 15 runs in 32 games, which isn't bad. Part of the reason for that is he's hit 7th, 8th, or 9th so much. But Luis Rengifo, hope his hand's okay. He's running like crazy. And with that, his fantasy value continues to go up. Kerry Carpenter, another guy that we talked about in the preseason, another guy that I was all in on. He hit a home run last night, 2 for 3. He was in the cash game breakdown as a core 4 player. 2 for 3 with a double. He had that solo home run, sacrifice fly. That is a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs. Scored a great effort for him last night. He's now batting .285 with an .893 OPS. The Tigers should just play him every day. I know he's not a great option against left-handed pitching, but the Tigers lineup is not good. Their pitching has been really good. Hitting's not been very good. He is their best offensive player right now. Just the way it is. But he doesn't play every day. That's fine. He's hitting .235 against lefties. Okay, since 2023. I get it. But he should be in there every day. Bottom line is he's not. That's fine. We know what it is. If you're in a league where you can change your lineup daily, and I think almost everyone is, Kerry Carpenter should always be started against right-handed pitching. Again, he's got an almost 900 OPS, and he did it last year too, especially in the second half. He has found his zone. There are limitations here. He's not a base stealer. He's not going to rack up 600 plate appearances. I don't think he maybe hit 270, right? Maybe he can do that. Not a batting average booster, but he's not going to hurt you there. And he's got pop, and he's productive. And he was one of the under-the-radar kind of players that the concerns about the playing time because of the platoon scenario, I think, kept him down a little bit in terms of his value. But he's continued what we saw in the second half last season, and that is he's an upper-end offensive player against right-handed pitching. Christian Yelich has been out with the back issue, and, oh, man, how's he doing? How long is he going to be out there? I don't know how long he's going to be out there. I don't know when the next hiccup's going to happen with his back. But I do know that he stole 2 bases yesterday, including a steal at home. And just like last season when he almost stole 30 bases, you say to yourself, if his back is messed up, boy, that's impressive, right? We're not seeing him driving the baseball like he did when he was hitting 40 home runs, right? So my supposition is whatever is going on with his back somehow doesn't allow him to impart the same elasticity into his swing, or doesn't allow him to drive the baseball as effectively, but it doesn't really hamper his ability to run in a straight line. Because last year he stole 28 bases. This year he's up to 6 steals in 20 games. You give him the same 140 games he played last year this season, at his current pace, he'd still 40 bases. So we'd be looking at a guy averaging 35 bases the last 2 years. So he's running, and he's also hitting very well. He's got a .962 OPS right now. Again, with Yelich, it's all about is he and when will he be in the lineup? When he is in that lineup, he is damn good. So make sure if you have Yelich that, through everything, whenever he's active, he's immediately back in your lineup. We'll just keep our fingers crossed. But again, I love the fact that he was able to steal 2 bases last night. That bodes well. And one of them was home. You should check that out. What basically happened is threw a pitch, right? Ryan Weathers threw a pitch, and the catcher got it and lobbed it back. And as soon as the catcher let it go, he saw Yelich break, but the ball was already out of his hand. Ryan Weathers actually barehanded the baseball when it was thrown to him and threw it home. So he did he couldn't have made a quicker transition. He caught it with his bare hand. Threw it home, but Yelich, made it in with the slide. So heads up base running there. I'd love to see that. Luke Raley, we talked about yesterday. I added him in the FSGA. Was it the FSGA or the Labor League? I always get them mixed up. I think it was the FSGA League. Hell, and you know how I am. I got to be a completist. So let's get an answer here. We talked about Luke Raley yesterday and the fact that, he qualifies at multiple positions. The fact that, he's going undervalued in some scenarios. It was the FSGA League. So my addition of Luke Raley allowed me to take Vaughn Grissom out of my lineup. I moved Rengifo to the outfield. I was able to put Luke Raley in at the corner infield spot. Moved Ellie De La Cruz to shortstop. I got all these guys with multi-position eligibility. Bottom line is I got Luke Raley in my lineup. He had 3 hits last night. I also had a bet on Luke Raley over the half a total base. Both Ted Schuster and myself had that same bet over at fantasyguru.com. It hit. He had 3 hits last night. By the way, if you get the MLB DFS package or the MLB wagering package over at fantasyguru.com, you get either one of those. We throw in for free the rest of the season for NHL, the rest of the season for NBA. We also toss in PGA, MMA, soccer, and racing, all for free. So sign up for one of those 2 baseball packages, and you get all those other sports for free. Might want to check it out now. And again, Luke, two bets last night. The Kyle Tucker 1 hit, the over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. And Luke Raley was over half a total base. It was free money. He ended up with 3 hits. That pushes his batting line the last 2 weeks to 462 with the batting average and 1180 with the OPS. He also has 2 home runs and 2 steals in the 11 games with 7 RBIs and 8 runs scored. And we also heard that, Mitch Garver, who's continued to struggle, is going to start to lose playing time, which can help keep Luke Raley in the lineup for the Mariners. So Raley is blazing hot right now. He's got the batting average up to 311 on the year. The OPS is a tick under 800. As we talked about yesterday, 19 home runs, 14 steals last season. White hot right now, dual position eligibility. Another strong effort last night for Luke Raley. Let's talk about some of the pitchers. Gerrit Cole is scheduled to face live hitters. He's hitting every box, if you will. The hope is that, he could be back in mid-June, maybe a month from now. Let's call it a month from now. So we'll see. Good news, though. His arm continues to respond effectively or positively to every test they give it. Now, on the other side of things, across town, and we talked about this, I'm pretty sure, here on the show. Kodai Senga, who's coming back from the shoulder issue, there was a report last week, I believe, saying that he had to change his mechanics up, and the team was going to slow him down a little bit while he worked through some mechanical issues coming back from the shoulder issue. And they acted like it was normal. A pitcher changing their mechanics is not now or ever will be normal. A pitcher changing his mechanics in season because of a physical malady of some sort is not good. The Mets came out and said, it's all right. He just changes his mechanics up. What? This is the reason that pitchers get taken out of games all the time, or why pitchers who aren't really hurt, they're just dealing with something, get put on the injury list because the teams are afraid their mechanics are going to change because of the injury. So now we get with Senga, who's already had his recovery from the shoulder issue slowed. There's been periods of time where they backed off. They gave him extra time. He did not throw the bullpen session because now his tricep is sore. Is that, I have no idea. I'm speculating now. Is that a result of changing his mechanics? The Mets hope that later this week he'll get back on the hill. So this is not, he blew his tricep out, he tore a muscle, it's going to take 4 weeks. None of that. But his tricep was sore, so he didn't throw his scheduled session earlier this week. And again, I think it's very easy to connect dots here. They are still saying that it's possible he's back in short order. How? He can't get through bullpen sessions. Like, how? So I don't know. Was this like his third or fourth setback? And again, nothing major. And as we talked about when the injury occurred, the injury is such that if it's not a long-term concern, once the situation is rectified, he should be okay. But it's a usage thing. It's almost like they have to just let him sit there and do nothing. It has to calm down and heal. And throwing a baseball is a very violent thing and one of the worst things you can do for your arm in the world. We're all meant to throw underhand, not overhand, with the way their shoulders are made. So I don't know when we're going to see him. We're certainly not going to see him in May like they kept saying was possible. That's certainly out the window. I don't know when we're going to see him. I don't. Hopefully they'll get some clarity here, but it's trending toward, we're trending toward, mid-June being a best case scenario. And I don't even think that that's very realistic at this point. A situation that isn't dire, but sure the hell seems dire, is the situation with Garrett Whitlock. We've talked about him, and I've talked and written about him for years. And it's been up and down in bullpen, long relief, starting pitcher, back to the bullpen, back to start. I throw my hands up. So it's like, I wish they would have just chosen a role. They finally chose a role for Whitlock this year. They're going to make him a starter. The problem is his arm is in bad shape. Their manager, Mr. Cora, announced after the game last night that Whitlock has ligament damage in his elbow, that he may need surgery. His UCL is damaged. That's the Tommy John ligament. He will visit the same doctor who did his Tommy John surgery in 2019. Yeah, there's a very real possibility that surgery is coming for Whitlock. In fact, it seems more likely than not. Maybe they can do the internal brace versus the Tommy John surgery. We'll see how that plays out, but it's almost a certainty that Whitlock's 2024 is done. Obviously, looking at the calendar here, it'll be a rush if indeed he does need some type of surgery. It'll be a rush to get back to full strength by training camp next year, if not impossible. If he has the internal brace, I guess he could be good to go for opening day. If it's Tommy John surgery, there's no chance. The fact that it's his second Tommy John surgery. And, let's pull back for a second. How are you having 2 Tommy John surgeries? Like, there's you shouldn't have Tommy John surgery, which in theory makes your ligament stronger than it's been since you were 8 years old when you started throwing. How do you need to replace it 5 years later? We see this happen with guys having 2, 3 Tommy John surgeries. Like, there's a problem. There's a problem when you keep pulling and tearing ligament. There's a problem. Anyway, Garrett Whitlock's almost done for this season. Terrible, disappointing, rough for the Red Sox, rough in fantasy, and I feel for the guy because, again, it looks like he was finally going to get a chance to start all season long, and here we go with that. Reese Olson last night, and this happened live, and we kind of said, oh, man, what happened? Reese Olson of the Tigers was pulled in the 3rd inning last night because he got blasted by a baseball. Ball was hit 102 miles an hour right back at him. Hit him he kind of turned a little bit as it came, so it hit him in the hip, but kind of that your hip bone, right on your hip button. And it hit him, and he later claimed after the game, and I've never been hit by a 102 mile an hour line drive. I have been hit by an 86 mile an hour fastball in my rib cage. I've told that story before. I actually got hit. I turned in like you're supposed to. Got hit got hit. This was like 5 days before my senior prom. And I had stitch marks. I could actually see the stitch marks on my side from where the baseball hit me. So I've been hit by fastballs that are hard. Never been hit by 102. But apparently Reese Olson claimed he blacked out. Like, he legitimately said he blacked out when he got hit by the pitch. He was taken out of the game. The hope is he'll be good to go next time out. Now, they'll obviously stretch him, bend him, do all the massage, all that kind of stuff, and see if they can make it happen. We were all a little surprised that he came out of the game last night because, again, didn't hit him on the wrist, didn't hit him on the elbow, didn't hit him on the shoulder, hit him on the butt, thigh, hip, whatever. I can't judge the guy, but I did find it interesting. He blacked out. Okay, so I guess it hurt a lot. The hope is he'll be able to make his next start on Monday. Next start would it be over on the weekend? Joe Ross, who we talked about earlier, I mentioned him earlier on the show today, was picked up yesterday for 2 starts this week by me. He was picked up in Tout Wars as a replacement. And I mentioned this specifically when I picked up Ross. I picked up Ross to replace another injured pitcher who had already been picked up to replace a previously injured pitcher. That means I'm now 4 pitchers down because I'm going to have to pick up another pitcher because it's almost certain Joe Ross is now going to the injured list with his back issue. 4. Like this. And we all want to keep playing fantasy baseball the way we play it. This is really fun. Okay, that's what we're doing. On the offensive side of things, Lane Thomas is going to start his rehab assignment. He actually started it last night in his return from the knee issue. This is great news. There's a hope he could be back by the weekend for the Nationals when he comes back. When then start to get that logjam in the outfield. Joey Gallo is back now. Victor Robles is back. What do they do with Young, with Winker? Do guys start getting platooned more? They got a lot of pieces that we haven't even talked about. Cruz and Wood down on the farm who will be up at some point, at least Wood. Cruz has struggled a little bit, but Wood's coming quick. Thomas is going to play every day, and we'll see, when that'll be. Hopefully, like I said, it could be this weekend, maybe next week. But by the end of the month, we should see Lane Thomas back out there for the Nationals, and obviously we'll want to get him back in our lineups. Xander Bogaerts hurt his shoulder yesterday. There was a lot of concern when this happened. He dove, and people were saying, oh, my gosh, this looks like the Trevor Story scenario. It's being called left shoulder inflammation. Well, yeah, his shoulder got inflamed because he dove and hurt himself. It's a very nebulous description of what he's dealing with. We're not sure at this point if he's really okay or not. Maybe there's an injured stint, disabled list stint. What am I trying to say, Ray? Get it out of your mouth. Coming for Xander Bogaerts. We'll need to get some information and clarity today. As of right now, no panic. But I'm sure more tests are being run, and we'll get a more clear picture of what's going on with Xander Bogaerts, who's had a very disappointing season, which is very strange for him because he's one of the most consistent players in baseball. A rough season for him to this point, and now he's got a shoulder situation that we'll have to keep an eye on. Joey Ortiz has a foot issue. He was one of the bigger additions across the land in fantasy on FAB over the weekend. He was hit on the right foot by a pitch. The x-rays were taken after Monday's game, and they're negative. So that's good news. It sounds like he's going to be able to stay in the lineup. We'll see if he's active today or not for the Brewers. The hope, obviously, is the foot is not that bad. Just because the foot isn't broken doesn't mean it won't change things for him, right? Doesn't mean he won't need some rest. Doesn't mean, he'll be worse off on the base pass. Doesn't mean he'll be able to, hit the same way because now his feet are impacted. So, that's a little scary, but obviously it's better news at this point than his teammate, Joe Ross. So we'll keep our fingers crossed everything is okay, that it is just a minor issue, that he doesn't continue to have pain, that they don't run further tests and find something else out. There have been x-rays taken, especially of the foot where there's all the bones, that everything looks fine. And then, they look at it again. And so we'll keep our fingers crossed with Joey Ortiz. The Cubs activated Dansby Swanson from the 10-day injured list. They obviously recently welcomed back Seiya Suzuki and Cody Bellinger as well. As a result of all the veterans getting back out, as we theorized when he was promoted, Pete Crow Armstrong was sent back down to AAA. This is the issue with the young players. This is why it's always difficult, because Pete Crow Armstrong is one of the better prospects in baseball. That Gold Glove defense, the ability to steal bases, the improving power stroke. He will be a fixture with the Cubs for a long time once there's an opportunity. But when you talk about guys like Suzuki, Bellinger, and Swanson, they're playing every day. So there just wasn't a spot. They didn't want to use Crow Armstrong as the 4th, 5th outfielder and have him sit. So he'll be sent back down to AAA. The tie-in there is, as I noted, make sure I make a note there on that, actually. Make sure I mention him. Pete Crow Armstrong being sent down. We're having the rookie article over at fantasyguru.com today. I've been doing this once a month, kind of doing just a review of the state of the rookies, if you will. He's obviously one of the better prospects in baseball. So kind of just a review of where everyone's at. Look for that later today at fantasyguru.com. All of us also be doing the cash game breakdown today over at the site. I'll be on with Justin Fensterman later tonight on the Elite Sports Game Time show, which is Monday through Thursday from 8 to 10 Eastern, as we talk about everything that's going on real time. We discuss the cash game breakdown. We discuss the core 4. We talk about the bets that we've placed. We cover basketball when it's going on, hockey. Obviously, the majority of the show is baseball, so check us out there on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Mann's show, the Elite Sports Show, is on Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm on with him on Wednesdays, so I'll be with him tomorrow. Okay, let's look. Oh, as I wipe myself out. Oh, I'm back. Here we go. As we look at some of the comments that were made here, John G says, thank you for the info about Detmers and Gasser. You got it, John. Rubby17, use Griffin Canning tonight. I say this all the time, and I don't mean to, but this show for me starts at 8 in the morning, just behind the scenes. This show for me starts at 8 in the morning. I get up at 6:45 and I'm working at 6:50 every day to get ready for this show. So getting ready for this show doesn't allow me to do a deep dive into pitching. I do that after the show when I do the cash game breakdown. So I'm going to answer the question this way. I need you to ask me the question later in the day. And I don't mean that to be rude, Rubby. I haven't broken everything down. If I were to look at the Smash Report over at fantasyguru.com, I see a lot of red with Griffin Canning. In fact, amongst listed starting pitchers today, Griffin Canning has got the worst advantage score in the game. The advantage score, just to back up for a sec, the Smash score is how the pitcher is performing. And that takes into account 20 data points. Okay. That's the pitcher rating, if you will. The advantage score takes that pitcher and compares him to the opposing offense. So that's the money shot there, because it's great to know how the pitcher's performing. We have this for the offensive side of things too. It's great to know how the pitcher's performing, but how are they performing compared to the offense? So we compare the players on the offensive side to the pitcher himself. And as of right now, the lowest score amongst all predicted probable starting pitchers today, according to the Smash Report, is Griffin Canning. So I'm going to say, even if you ask me later today, I'm going to say no on Griffin Canning, because it's very rare that the Smash tool, which I created with Jeff Mans, would say a guy is the worst in baseball, and I'm going to say pitch him. And we saw last night Detmers struggle against the Astros. The Astros are starting to, gel offensively, all that kind of stuff. So let's pass on Griffin Canning tonight. Chaka says the following. I can understand. I guess we're back to Josh Hader, who we talked about earlier in the show. I can understand it. If a team is willing to go along with them, great. I personally hate misuse of players teams don't plan on keeping. Okay, I get your point too, but Chaka, could you tell your boss you're not working on a Thursday, or you're not working at 3 p.m? Like, I pay you to work for me, and I need you to do your job, whatever your job is. And in my world, which I wish, my God, I've never had a 40-hour-a-week job. In my world, if it took me 40 hours to do my job, my life would be spectacular. Like if I can get my work done in 60 hours, I'm feeling great. Not dead. That's dead on true story. If I can get all my work done in 60 hours, that's fantastic. Most of the time, it's well beyond that. It's been that way for 2 decades, right? I got to get my job done. My job is such that if I got my job done in 7 hours a day, I can work a 7-hour day. Unfortunately, most days it takes 12 hours. So I have the freedom that my boss would tell me, Jeff Mans would say, look, Ray, if you can get it done in 7 hours, do it in 7 hours. It's just not feasible. I would never tell my boss I'm only working 7 hours today because the work wouldn't get done. Anyway, it's an interesting topic. I appreciate the comment here. Morning, Henry. Morning, Brandon. Here's further from Chaka. As a lifelong Mets fan, no matter who is in charge, they're the worst team in baseball when it comes to handling injuries. I don't know who the worst is. You need data to support that. I know that they've dealt with some issues. I've constantly brought up the fact that the Rays pitchers all get hurt. All of them, everyone. I don't know. Just the nature of where we're at. It's really tough. I'm late. Had to vote. Oh, Angela, welcome. Thanks for coming in. You can always catch the show on demand. You know that over at fantasyguru.com in the Elite Plus tab. You can always catch it on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. Always type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network and get that taken care of as well. So we're everywhere. You can find us. The show usually goes up. For those people that don't do anything other than watch on Facebook or YouTube, the show is usually up on fantasyguru.com in the Elite Plus section. There's a tab right at the top. Usually up about 10 to 15 minutes after the show is done. It then is probably about 30 minutes before it's up on the various podcast networks. That depends on them. I get done here. I download everything, upload it where it needs to be sent. And then it's a process of how long does it take Spotify or Apple iTunes to get it up. But usually within about an hour, everything is taken care of from the end of the show. So you can always catch things on demand there as well. So thanks for listening today. Really appreciate it. If you missed any part of the show, again, rewind, listen, watch, all that kind of good stuff. You know the deal. We'll be back in tomorrow here at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fantasy Sports Daily. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right. Get access to the data suite, which has things like the Smash Score in it. Get access to the seasonal baseball product, the DFS baseball product, the wagering aspect of things for baseball. Get access to all the other sports. We actually have our football portion of 2024, the football guide, if you will, less than 10 days away. It's going to drop on June 1st. That's almost available. Plus, we have a special situation behind the scenes. It's going to be really exciting that we'll be sharing soon, too, when it comes to football. So lots going on at fantasyguru.com. Hit me up on the social media verses at the Ray Flowers. Over in Discord, you can reach me there all the time. I'm jumping in to do the cash game breakdown and finish that up today. I'll also be posting that article later today about rookies and kind of where they're at. And then tonight, Elite Sports Game Time from 8 to 10 with Justin Fensterman on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you interacting with me here on the show. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.